Scorpio the Sky, Christopher Daniels, Frank Fizan, collectively known as SoCal Uncensored or
SCU! This is Catch, Hook, and Shoot, the worst podcast I've ever been on. Word.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, March the 29th, 2020. Hope everybody's staying safe and staying healthy during this stay-at-home order that most of us are under right now. And I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and subscribing on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, wherever. And also thank you to everybody for following on social media on all platforms. You can find the show at Catch, Hook, Shoot. Head over to patreon.com/CatchHookShoot for bonus content and ProWrestlingTees.com/CatchHookShoot for all your t-shirt needs. And if you ever want to shoot me an email, it's catchhookshoot@gmail.com. So, got actually kind of a brief show for you guys this week. Not too much going on, but there's definitely a little bit of wrestling news this week, and we're starting it all off, like always, with our match of the week. Alright, so the match of the week this week comes from AEW Dynamite, and it was a match for the AAA Mega Championship. Kenny Omega defending against Sammy Guevara. First title of defense we've seen from Omega in a little bit. His third title defense overall. He did retain, and just, no surprise, a fantastic match from two amazing in-ring performers in this one. So, definitely, if you have not seen AEW Dynamite from this past Wednesday yet, I definitely recommend you go back and check it out. Go out of your way to see this match. If you only watch one wrestling match this week, make it Kenny Omega defending the AAA Championship against Sammy Guevara. Just like I said, an amazing match from two spectacular in-ring stars. Kenny Omega, for my money, still one of the best in the world, and Sammy Guevara, JR has made a lot of comparisons between Sammy and Eddie Guerrero, and definitely warranted in that respect. Sammy Guevara is going to be a huge star, and he's well on his way already. So definitely go back and check this one out. Kenny Omega defending the AAA Mega Championship against Sammy Guevara from this past Wednesday on AEW Dynamite. Moving on to the next segment of the show, this is my top three highlights of the week, and it is called the 3 Count. So number one on the 3 Count this week, got to talk about Dark Side of the Ring, the Chris Benoit story that aired this past week. I wrote about this on social media. As a fan, it was actually a little bit hard to watch, not because it was bad or anything like that. It was very, very good, but it just brought back all those painful memories, especially when they were talking about the death of Eddie Guerrero, and then of course getting into the tragedy of the Benoit family. Just very, very emotional, and it was difficult to watch as a fan to kind of relive that stuff. And I can't even imagine what it was like for the family members that were involved in it. Vicky Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, David Benoit, Nancy Benoit's sister, who were all a part of the documentary. Dean Malenko, of course, as well. Jim Ross was on the show, and it was just was very well made. It wasn't wasn't done to exploit anything or anyone. It told the story very well with a lot of respect towards everybody involved, and I highly recommend checking it out. It was very well made, and it was very sad, very emotional. I mean, I got misty-eyed more than once watching it. I'm not ashamed to admit that. So if you have not checked out Dark Side of the Ring yet, definitely go back and check that one out. I think you can probably find it on demand from Vice TV, but one way or the other, check out Dark Side of the Ring, the Chris Benoit story. It's if you're not familiar with the whole story of what happened, definitely covers it very, very in depth. Moving on to number 2 on the 3 count, the face-to-face meeting between Matt Hardy and Chris Jericho on AEW Dynamite. Now, obviously, this was pre-taped because you had Matt Hardy kind of teleporting around the arena, and it was a cool spot. It was. You're talking about two of the best personalities in wrestling, and it was it was very entertaining to see these two guys, and that was the point of it. Obviously, a lot of people complaining about it's so fake and this and that. It's wrestling, guys. Stop taking it so seriously. I honestly don't know what people expect sometimes when it comes to these type of promos, especially when the wrestler's character is somewhat of a supernatural type gimmick. But I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it, especially Jericho yelling at Vanguard 1 and things like that. He actually put up a video on Instagram after that of him yelling at his Roomba vacuum going around the house. So, just kind of extending the extending the fun on that one, and that's the whole point. It's supposed to be fun, guys. Take it for what it is. Too many people complaining about this one, but I thought it was a cool promo with these two guys, and honestly, two of the best promo guys in the business right now, especially Matt Hardy when he is in his broken gimmick. There's not too many people that can cut a better promo right now in wrestling. So moving on to part 3 of the 3 count, Brody Lee. The Exalted One of the Dark Order had a video promo on Dynamite as well, and definitely some very not so thinly veiled shots at Vince McMahon in this one. It was basically Brody Lee sitting there with members of the Dark Order and having a steak dinner, and they weren't allowed to eat until he was finished. One of them went to start eating, and Brody Lee kicked him out of the room for trying to eat before Brody Lee was finished. And then a couple of minutes later, the guy left in the room, sneezed, and Brody Lee had a fit, threw him out of the room. That's an obvious shot at Vince McMahon. That's been rumor, or not even so much of a rumor, but something that's been said about Vince McMahon for years. He does not like people sneezing around him. I don't know if it's that he's a germaphobe, or I believe Stephanie McMahon said he just does not like things that he can't control. Like he gets angry when he himself sneezes. Does Vince McMahon? So he not fond of people sneezing around him. So that was a pretty obvious jab at Vince. And apparently some people in WWE not so happy about this little promo. But again, stop taking everything so seriously. It is what it is. It's meant in fun. It's just a little jab at Vince. It's not going to hurt anybody. So anyway, that's the 3 count for this week. Moving into some WWE news, on Raw this week, we found out the Undertaker AJ Styles match for WrestleMania is going to be a Boneyard match. A lot of confusion about what a Boneyard match is. I guess AJ said on his streaming channel that it's basically more or less like a graveyard match, cemetery match. It's going to take place in that type of venue, which is pretty much what I thought. I think we're probably going to see a couple matches like this as part of the WrestleMania card taking place off-site, and I think more than anything that's just to minimize the number of people in any one given place while these matches are being taped. And we also found out the Street Profits are supposed to be defending the Raw Tag Team titles against Andrade and Garza. But there's some confusion over that because there's apparently a lot of WWE superstars who did not participate in the WrestleMania tapings. By all accounts, everything was taped this past week. But Dana Brooke, Asuka, The Miz, Roman Reigns, and Andrade, and possibly others, who knows, were not part of those tapings, but WWE is still promoting their matches, so I'm not 100% sure, is all of this completely true? A Roman Reigns case, it makes sense that he wouldn't be a part of it. I'm surprised they even tried to go ahead with his match with Goldberg, just because you figure Roman just over a year ago, I mean, he was going through treatment for leukemia, which I think most people know any type of treatment like that, it weakens your immune system. So that puts him in a higher risk category for this COVID-19. So I'm honestly surprised he's been at any of the tapings that have been going on. So, and then there was a lot of rumors and talk online about, well, who would take his place versus Goldberg. One rumor said it was Braun Strowman. You know, I've been actively avoiding spoilers for WrestleMania, just because it is taped, and I'm sure there are spoilers out there, even though there's no crowd in the arena. You know, people find stuff out one way or another. So I've been actively avoiding anything that might give away results, because I do plan to watch it. I mean, WWE's going to put it on. I'm going to watch it, you know. Yeah, by all accounts, you know, a number of WWE superstars who were originally supposed to be on the card were not there for the tapings, so not really sure how the WrestleMania card is going to go down. But yeah, from what I read, Andrade is one of the ones who was not a part of the tapings, and he was replaced by Austin Theory from NXT. So I guess that match is Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Austin Theory, which, you know, that still should be a fantastic match with those four guys. So if that is the case, I'm not not too disappointed with the replacement that they've come up with for Andrade. We also found out we're supposed to be seeing a match between Aleister Black and Bobby Lashley as part of WrestleMania. Yeah, I already talked about a lot of the people who were not part of the WrestleMania tapings. Another one was Rey Mysterio. Apparently, you know, decided to self-quarantine, I guess more so as a measure just to protect himself and his family. From everything I read, you know, he's not sick. I guess Lashley had been quarantined prior to the WrestleMania tapings, but I believe he was there from what I read. A lot of confusing information going around online, honestly. So, yeah, I'm very curious to see what WrestleMania is going to look like with all of these supposed cancellations and people not being able to be there. Like I said, there was one account that said Braun Strowman replaced Roman Reigns to go against Goldberg. Now, does this mean we're going to see Strowman getting his first Universal title reign, or are they going to leave that title on Goldberg possibly until SummerSlam to build up the match with Roman Reigns, because that is a huge marquee matchup. Whether you like Goldberg or not, whether you like Reigns or not, that match is going to sell tickets, and it's going to sell pay-per-views. So I have to see what's going to happen with that one. Yeah, like I said, The Miz, another one who's out. We were supposed to have a SmackDown Tag Team title triple threat match between The Miz and Morrison defending against the New Day and the Usos. That was just actually announced on SmackDown last night. But, by all accounts, The Miz not there. Apparently he's got some heat. He showed up to the Performance Center sick, not necessarily with COVID-19, but just under the weather. And so apparently some people not happy with him about that. But, it's WWE. That's kind of what has always been expected. Like, if you've got a little sniffle, you don't take the day off, you push through. So I'm sure that's the mentality that Miz was working under. I'm sure that's the mentality a lot of WWE guys work under. I'm sure he didn't intend any harm or anything like that. But apparently Miz has a little bit of heat with some of his fellow WWE superstars and some people backstage for showing up to the PC not in 100% health. Moving into some NXT news. On NXT, we saw Killer Cross and Dexter Lumis had some new vignettes. So apparently it has been confirmed that Killer Cross is the one whose vignettes have been showing up on NXT with all the clocks and things like that. And Dexter Lumis also had a little vignette, just kind of very dark, disturbing type of look from Dexter Lumis, which definitely fits him. So I would expect to see the two of them debuting. I don't know how soon. Whether they've been part of the tapings that have been going on the last week or so, or if They're going to wait until after they're able to start doing live shows again to introduce these two, but we'll have to wait and see. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing both of them. WWE also announced that the matches that were supposed to be part of NXT Takeover will be on regular NXT TV beginning this coming week on April 1st. We're going to see Keith Lee defending the North American Championship against Damian Priest and Dominik Dijakovic. We're also going to see Bobby Fish taking on Velveteen Dream. Now, it sounds like if Velveteen Dream wins, he gets his shot at the NXT title at Adam Cole, so I would assume that would be the following week on April the 8th, but that wasn't explicitly stated, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. And then on April the 8th, we're going to see the women's number one contender ladder match. And we're also going to see Tommaso Ciampa versus Johnny Gargano. And I would think that would be the main event of the whole 2-week NXT takeover basically. And they had a face-to-face confrontation with Triple H in the ring this past week on NXT, and basically said, he's going to get a building, going to get a ring, a referee, and a camera guy, and that's going to be it. And, so just a completely empty building, empty arena match with these two guys, which kind of what's been going on anyway, but you get the impression they're going to be fighting all over the building wherever they're at, so I cannot wait to see that one. On SmackDown, we saw Drew Gulak defeat Shinsuke Nakamura, and with that victory for Gulak, that means Daniel Bryan gets a shot at the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania against Sami Zayn. And another interesting note from SmackDown had Bray Wyatt on an episode of the Firefly Funhouse basically state that the Fiend's match against John Cena at WrestleMania will be a Firefly Funhouse match. What that means, I have no idea. We'll find out next week, apparently. But again, I would assume this would be something off-site to minimize the number of people involved, kind of like the Boneyard match, kind of like the Ciampa and Gargano match. They're going to be using kind of these off-site type matches. It would seem to me to minimize the number of people involved, which is smart, pretty much what's necessary right now. I mean, the fact that WWE is continuing business at all is miraculous, honestly. But the reason they've been taping shows this last week for the next several weeks is because the mayor of Orlando has basically issued the same stay-at-home order that a lot of other cities are under, and WWE not being an essential service, they pretty much have to abide by it and shut their facilities down. That began this past Thursday, so they had to get in as much TV taping as they could prior to that. So not sure how many weeks of Raw and SmackDown and NXT they've got left, or that they were able to tape in that time, but we should have WWE TV for at least the next few weeks, so it should be it's at least something to keep us entertained, because there's no other sports or anything else going on. So good for WWE trying to get out as much content as they can while they are able to. Moving into some Impact news, we saw the return of Suicide on this past week's show. Came out and attacked Moose. No idea who's under the mask for Suicide this time. Previously, it had been T.J. Perkins and a lot of other people, including Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, going back to the TNA days. And this is obviously part of the kind of TNA resurgence. They've been promoting a couple of these throwback shows. And I guess this coming week we're going to see Suicide tag teaming with Manic, who were basically the same person. I mean, like I said, T.J. Perkins was Suicide, and then Suicide evolved into Manic. And T.J. Perkins was playing the character at that time. So I would assume T.J. Perkins is playing Manic, because the mask for Manic is a little bit different, shows a little bit more of the face. They could pretty much have anybody under the mask for Suicide. I know Jonathan Gresham has been Suicide in the past, and like I said, a number of other people. Could be somebody completely new, could be one of the Rascals under the mask for Suicide. But Yeah, it's an interesting concept to see Suicide teaming with Mannix, so I'll be tuning in for that one. So that's really all the news and rumors we've got for this week. So let's see what's going on in the world of independent wrestling in this crazy time we're living in. So I'm going to throw it over to Charlie G, and this is your Indie Cut.
Thank you, Tom, and hey there, wrestling friends. I am Charlie G with your Indie Cut. There was some indie wrestling actions to recap, so let's get to it with the CZW Unapproved Saturday Night Special from March 21st with Matt Striker on commentary. Now, none of the big advertised matches took place for some reason or another. It was never brought up during the show. But the show went on with 10 matches. First off, we had Gabriel Sky defeating TJ Crawford with a double stomp to the back in a nice match. Leroy Green lost to Anthony Gangon with Valentina Vasquez. Leroy wrestled while playing a Nintendo Switch for about 3 minutes. Very gimmicky, but he moved, he worked with it. But with the help from Valentina landing a Canadian Destroyer, Gangon hit a reverse DVD for the win. Next was Chris Bishop defeating Griffin McCoy. Jose and Josby of Team España lost to Charlie Tiger and Ellis Taylor of Young, Dumb, and Broke. Aaron Ash defeated Mr. Grimm. Connor Claxton defeated Nico Gray in a hard-fought quick match. Then Connor Claxton defeated Kareen Mink in a hardcore battle in and outside of the building. This was pretty wild. DK Meadows defeated Boom Harden, Karen Bam Bam, and Christina Robinson. For the CZW Tag Team titles, Bear Country of Beer Boulder and Bear Bronson defeated the champions The Rep, Dave McCall, and Nate Carter by DQ when Young, Dumb, and Broke came out with chairs to beat up both teams. And in the main event, the CZW World Heavyweight title three-way match, champion Joe Gacy retained against Jimmy Lloyd and Jordan Oliver by hitting a spike cutter on Lloyd in a very good hard match. Next was overseas for TJP Spring Tour 2020, Heart and Body from the 21st, which aired on the 24th with 210 fans in attendance. Rika Tatsuma defeated Sina Shiora in a 6-1 tag. Mina Sarakawa, Yuka Kamafuku, and Yuna Manazi defeated Hirano Niko, Miharu Kairu, and Pam Harajuku. Nadoko Tenma defeated Hypermisio. In the tag match, Maki Ito, and Raku defeated Miyu Watanabe and Suzumi. And another 6-woman tag, Mizuki and Yuka Sakazaki teamed with Hikari Noa, defeating Mira Mayoma, Shoka Nakajima, and Yuka Ono. And in the main event was Mayu Yamashita defeating Natsumi Maki. Now, some of those names are AEW names, and I doubt any of those will be on any AEW show coming up. Next up was the Stardom Cinderella Tournament from the 24th. The first round, yes, was on YouTube Live and still up, which was actually about an hour and a half of action, so it was pretty nice to see. And the first round matches was Momo Watanabe defeating the Starlight Kid in a nice match with a backpack driver for the win. Jungle Corona and Julia in a good match. Julia won with a bow and arrow submission. Pretty crazy angle, but it was still a nice move. AZM lost to Konami in a quick match by armbar submission. Syria defeated Jamie Hayter in a solid match with a chicken wing armbar. Saki Kashima defeated Tam Nakano in a fine match with a double arm suplex pin by Tam. Nasaku Tora defeated Saya Kamatani in a okay match by Frog Splash. Utami Hayashita and Maka went to a time limit draw. And Mayu Iwatani and Hana Kimura in a nice match, but both fell over the top rope turnbuckle to end the match, and they were both eliminated as well. In the quarterfinals, it was Julia defeating Momo Watanabe, and Sierra defeated Konami. In the semifinals, it was Nasuka Tora defeating Tam Nakano, and Julia defeated Syria. And the tournament final match, it was Julia defeating Nasuko Tora for the win. Jushin Liger was on commentary again, but it was very. I found this tournament was very submission based, which is very different for them, it seems. And there's no follow up on the English translations for any of the event yet, so keep a lookout on their YouTube channel. Now, reports from Wrestling Observer Live said after the start of the event, Japan cut back on the idea of having fans in the stands. There was about 500. There's 538 people at the Corrigan Hall, which seats a lot more than that. So they did cut back. They kept them arms length apart, but it seemed like they jumped the gun in allowing fans back in the arenas. Sounded like the sick illness level spiked again, but I don't know how. I don't know how true that is, since shows have been few since the 24th, and the events that have taken place do have fans in the stands. Very limited, but still have fans around. Now, since my cut is so short, I'd like to bring up a topic from last week that I did not cover, and that will be my indie a-hole of the week. And that would be the WWE sending a cease and desist notice to Freelance Wrestling for their advertised name of In Our Warehouse show for their pay-per-view fundraiser. I guess since the graphic was too close to their In Your House show, that they didn't want their independent scene giving their show a bad name. Do you remember some of their In Your House pay-per-views? I think they would have got some nice advertisement from this. To me, this is very petty of WWE, while Freelance was just trying to do something good for their fans and wrestlers to earn money during these times since their upcoming shows have been canceled. Well, Freelance seized the name and came up with the Warehouse Wars instead, only for that show to be canceled as well, with the stay-at-home order in place here in Chicago. Even though the show was canceled, they were still able to raise just over $5,000 for the talent and crew who were supposed to work on the show. Big ups to Mustafa Ali for helping promote, and probably donate to the show as well for once he once wrestled for. So to WWE, stop being an a-hole and start being a team player. Also with their Mania matches, whatever, I'm not going to get into that. I'm sure Tom has done that already. Now, if you're looking for independent wrestling, check out your favorite company or wrestler social media pages for links to what they're doing and helping out as they can. I've seen AAW put up full shows from their past on YouTube, as well as Beyond Wrestling. Rise Wrestling did a live interview with Kylie Ray on their Twitch channel while watching some of her matches, and then later in the day on their same Twitch channel put up the full free show. So check out Rise DTWA Twitch for their later upcoming shows, which they said they would do. Also on the High Spots Wrestling Network Twitch channel is streaming a lot of their vast library, which is pretty cool to see. I just saw Young Bucks and Kevin Steen interview talking about how they would never go to WWE, Pretty funny in these days. If you can sign up for IWTV service, they have a lot going on there. Lastly, Kylie Ray was auctioning off gear with all proceeds going to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital and UNICEF, which is really sweet of her. So there's a lot of the fans can do to support the indie wrestlers during these times. Don't forget about getting gear from Pro Wrestling Tees, who are still taking orders on a limited basis. That's a wrap for me. Till next week, where I will talk about the cool matches that were to have happened during this Wild Mania weekend and Independence, and anything else that comes along the way. Thank you for watching or listening. Hope you enjoyed the cut. Stay safe, wash your hands, everyone, and back to you, Tom.
Alright, that was your indie cut with Charlie G, and let's roll right into the next segment of the show. Calling out what I deem to be the biggest asshole of the internet for the week, and of course I am talking about the Troll of the Week. Alright, so this week's Troll of the Week is a guy by the name of Jack Klassen. You can find him on Twitter. It's at the Jack Klassen, Klassen. And this jackass, he thinks he's a radio star. He's really not. He's a podcaster, same as me. And, but his Twitter name is, Jack Klassen Radio or some crap like that. He thinks he's... he thinks he's actually on the radio, says he's syndicated on so many stations and this and that. And, basically this guy was on Twitter harassing women, and that kind of stuff. And, number of people called him out on it and told him how big of a douchebag he was being, myself being one of them, because one of the people he was harassing is a follower of mine. I'm a follower of hers. And, basically I just said, he thinks he's... somehow relevant or important because he's on radio, which is a dead media, quite honestly. I mean, obviously radio still exists, but it's it really is not as prominent as it used to be, unless we're talking about satellite radio. Then that's a completely different animal. But this guy's trying to say he's on syndicated radio, which is just completely irrelevant and meaningless, honestly. But, like I said, turns out he's not. He's a podcaster. That's all he is. Same as me. And, he decided he was going to clap back at me, saying, oh, you're a podcaster. Who cares? Blah, 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 blah. Talk to me when you're on radio. And so I basically told him, hey, come back and talk to me when your precious radio has you in over 40 countries, like my podcast has for me. So, not to toot my own horn, but, I'm very proud of the audience that I've gained with this podcast. And, never dreamed I would be heard by so many people all over the world. Like I said, 40 plus countries. It's mind-blowing and it's humbling for me. But this guy, like I said, talking crap because I'm a podcaster when he's exactly the same thing. And then he decided he was going to stalk my YouTube channel, left a comment on there, and then deleted it. But I still got the notification from it, so I have I have the proof that he actually did it, talking crap about me, talking crap about Charlie, which is ridiculous. Charlie is a contributor to the show, hasn't said a cross word to or about anybody, and this jagoff is, wants to start running his mouth about me and about Charlie, and and like I said, he deleted the comment because obviously he's a coward. I mean, he's your typical dime a dozen coward internet troll. There's a million out there just like him, and when he fades away into obscurity, there's going to be a million more to come and take his place. There's nothing special about this guy. He claims to be an alpha, which tells you right there that he's not, because if you have to broadcast that you're an alpha, you're not an alpha. Sorry, an alpha doesn't need to tell people that they're an alpha. They just are. They lead. That's what they do. And anybody who is going to go out of their way on the internet to belittle and talk crap about strangers and harass people for what they may do to earn money, especially during these trying times in the world, that's not an alpha. That's pretty much as beta as it gets. So you're nothing special. You're a dime a dozen internet troll, and this little segment right here is probably the most notoriety that you'll ever have. So congratulations, Jack Klassen. You are the CHS Troll of the Week. Now kiss my ass, bitch. All right. So moving on to something a little bit more fun, let's get into what has become one of my favorite segments of the show, and of course I am talking about the Fantasy Booker. So this week's Fantasy Booker is for everybody who is a fan of old school technical mat wrestling. And I'm taking somebody from the old days of pro wrestling, one of the greatest mat technicians of all time, one of the greatest trainers of all time, guy who trained so many legends in the business, ran his own promotion, was I believe a 10-time world champion himself. I'm talking about Vern Gagne, owner, promoter, and champion from the AWA. And this week in my fantasy booking, I've got him taking on probably the best mat wrestler in pro wrestling today, and I am talking about Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him. Vern Gagne, like I said, one of the all-time greats as far as mat wrestling goes. Ran the AWA for years and years and years, 10-time world heavyweight champion, trained Ric Flair, trained the Iron Sheik, trained Hulk Hogan, trained so many of the greats in the wrestling business. And if you go back into the 80s, you find some of the best mat wrestlers that were around in that time. Odds are they've got some connection to Vern Gagne. I mean, when WWF at that time started to grow into a national company, they took so much talent from the AWA because they were some of the best wrestlers that you could find. So that, obviously was the pool that they wanted to pull from. And, you look at today, Bryan Danielson, better known as Daniel Bryan by WWE fans, former Ring of Honor World Champion, Ring of Honor Pure Champion, the last Ring of Honor Pure Champion until the reintroduction of the title this year. WWE Champion, and the list of accolades goes on and on. The guy is one of the best mat-based submission wrestlers in pro wrestling right now. So if you could go back in time or bring Vern Gagne forward in time and put these two in the ring together, you would have quite possibly a contender for the greatest wrestling match of all time. I mean, you've got the label lock from Bryan Danielson versus the classic sleeper hold from Vern Gagne. And it would just be, it would be a mat classic. I mean, you talk about a 5-star technical masterpiece, this would be it. I mean, these two guys, people talk about wrestlers being artists, and they are. Wrestling is an art form. This would be the equivalent of, putting Michelangelo versus Picasso, or, pick whatever two great artists you want to use as a metaphor, and this is it. So, Fantasy Booker this week, Vern Gagne versus Bryan Danielson, could potentially have been one of, if not the greatest wrestling match of all time. So that's pretty much it for the Fantasy Booker this week. So let's roll into the final segment of the show. Typically would be an unpopular opinion, but I've been seeing a lot of people online with this same opinion, and I am talking about the weekly hot take. Alright, so this week's hot take is, like I said, I've seen a number of people online sharing this same opinion. WWE, especially with all of the cancellations and people pulling out of WrestleMania, or at least the rumored cancellations of some stars that are supposed to be on WrestleMania. WrestleMania should have just been canceled this year. Honestly, I mean, I understand them, trying to put it on to the best of their ability, and I think the empty arena concept, spreading it out over 2 nights, and even recording it in advance, I mean, it's them doing what they need to do to fulfill their obligation to the fans, and I can respect that. But when you've got people who are, self-isolating for whatever reason, and, in the Miz's case, who apparently was under the weather, and stuff like that, I mean, there comes a point you should just say, okay, you know what, we tried, but just in the interest of safety and public health and the health of our superstars and our employees, we should just put this off for right now. And maybe, I mean, I'm sure they could have rescheduled it at some point. But yeah, they're still, Vince McMahon apparently is still dead set on going through with it. By all accounts, it was recorded this past week. How it's going to come off with all of the superstars that were apparently not there for whatever reason, I don't know. It's going to be definitely interesting, and it could be a complete disaster. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's pretty much it for the show this week. Coming up next week, of course, it will be the biggest, what's supposed to be the biggest weekend in wrestling every year. Next week is WrestleMania weekend, and next week's show will be a WrestleMania special, a little bit different. Not going to have all of the segments. The show is going to be completely focused around WrestleMania. I'll be breaking down the WrestleMania card, or at least the planned card, and the show will be dropping on Saturday morning next week, so I will be dropping the show ahead of the WrestleMania broadcast. But yeah, I'll be giving a preview and predictions for the announced card, at least. Who knows if it's actually going to come off like that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm also going to be going through some top 10 lists. I've got my top 10 WrestleMania matches, WrestleMania moments, and WrestleMania superstars from the entire history of WrestleMania. So should be a lot of fun. I had fun putting the list together. It's actually kind of nerve-wracking trying to, come up with just 10 out of some of the fantastic matches and moments and everything that we've seen at WrestleMania in the past. Of course, you heard Charlie talk about he's going to be going through all the indie events that were supposed to be taking place next weekend. And so yeah, next week's show is all about WrestleMania, so make sure you tune in for that. I also put up a video on Facebook earlier today talking about something I'd like to try, just to have a little bit of fun, keep us all occupied and entertained during these lockdown orders that we're under right now. And so I'm thinking about going on Facebook Live and just doing a little bit of wrestling trivia, so to speak. Kind of a wrestling version of the game Name That Tune. I'll go on Facebook Live, play some wrestling entrance themes or some event themes, theme songs, from the past, and basically whoever's watching and listening, write in your comments, what your guess is, whose theme music is it, what event was that theme for, things like that. It's just for fun. There's no prizes, it's just test out your wrestling music knowledge, basically, is what it is. So hopefully I get a decent response to that. Keep your eyes on the Facebook page for the show, and find out when that's going to be taking place, probably within the next few days to a week or so. So yeah, like I said, keep an eye on Facebook for that. But again, thank you to everybody for listening, watching, and subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any place you find your podcasts. Make sure you're following on social media. It's at CatchHookShoot on all social media platforms. Patreon.com/CatchHookShoot for bonus content, and ProWrestlingTees.com/CatchHookShoot for t-shirts. The email is catchhookshoot@gmail.com. If you want to write in with any questions, comments, or anything about the show, feel free. I'm always open to anything you guys want to tell me. So with that, I am going to sign off. Hope everybody has a great week. Make sure you tune in next week for our WrestleMania special, and I will talk to you guys soon.